We are standing here on Har Hazeitim, the Mount of Olives. Prophets spoke from this very place, warning the Jewish people, blessing the Jewish people. God spoke through them right here. A man needs to understand his role in the home. It's a very delicate balance between a prophet who speaks on high, one who gives knowledge to his family, one who brings guidance to his family, one who knows what the warnings of the boundaries for his family are, and at the same time can speak with love, compassion, and grace to his family. The prophets had the same issue, but they had the great gift of God speaking through them. Now I'm going to put out a warning on this. I hear too many times men and women saying, God came to me and said, I was told by God X, Y, and Z. And I'm not here to challenge our religious views. All I want to say is be very careful. One who hears what God has to say means that they are keeping in constant line with what God has to say. We can't live our lives one way and expect to hear God clearly when we want it or when we need it. We need to stay focused on sanctifying our lives for God if we want Him to speak clearly to us. Now that may be different for different people. Some people feel that they hear His voice. Some people need to open their Bible, their Torah, and hear what He has to say through the words. Either way, if we as men and leaders of our home are expecting to be spoken to by God, we have to keep our focus on Him. That is the reasoning behind the temple. The temple stood here over 2,000 years ago. And the temple is the most incredible place. Why? Because God says in Exodus 25, Shmot Kaf Hei, Va'asu li mikdash v'shachanti betocham. Make for me a tabernacle and I will dwell within them. We're going to break down that verse in a moment, but before we do, the reasoning behind the tabernacle and then afterwards the temple was to have a focus for the people. The tabernacle was built by the people in the middle of the encampment, in the middle of the camp, so that the whole focus of the entire nation was on that tabernacle, was on God's revelation in that tabernacle. What place in your home, what place in your heart, what place in your family's life do you have that is a holy tabernacle, a sanctified place that you use to keep the focus, to make business decisions, to make life decisions, to create a family vision? What is it that you use to keep you focused, like the Jewish people had in the tabernacle and later on in the temple? That's my first challenge to you. Pause this video and I want you to document for yourself what place, physical or emotional or spiritual, do you have, do you as the leader of your home sanctify in order that your family stay focused on your vision? Now let's go back to that verse. Va'asu li mikdash v'shachanti betocham, and you shall make for me a tabernacle and I will dwell within them. As we know in Jewish learning, we ask questions. What's the question here? Open up your Tanakh, open up your Bible, take a look. Chapter 25, verse 8. Now once you've looked at it, it's pretty easy to see. Make for me a tabernacle and I will dwell within them. A tabernacle is singular. Why is God saying that you create a tabernacle and I will dwell within them? Who is them? Are there many tabernacles? What is the them? The answer is like this. When we as leaders and men of our families create a tabernacle, create a safe, sanctified place in our home, in our life, in our heart, then God dwells within them. Who is them? Them is your family. Them is your hearts. Them is your minds, our communities. He's selling a donkey, what can we do? Once we've got that focus of a sanctified place, it is far easier for us to stay focused on what our real purpose is, what our family vision is. Men, there are so many distractions out there. The world is pulling us left and right. But if we can create a focus for ourselves, a sanctified place that is holy and safe for ourselves, then when we get pulled to those different directions, we know that all we need to do is refocus, go back to that temple, go back to that sanctified place, and not only will we stay on our path, but we can bring our families in line with us as well. Now, please don't get me wrong. I do not believe that every single person in a family must be the same person, must have the same views, must have the same visions. When you think about the Bible, we have 12 tribes. Each one of them gave a different gift, a different skill to the nation. But at the same time, they all had one focus, and that was the service of God through the tabernacle and then the temple in the middle of the camp. As you can see, I'm standing on Har HaZeitim, the Mountain of Olives. Not only do we have behind us the Temple Mount, but we have right below us here the oldest perpetually used graveyard, Jewish graveyard, in the entire world. There are rabbis who are buried here from the Talmudic times. I want to tell you a secret. One of the great reasons that I believe the Jewish people have survived for so long, apart from God's blessing and promise, is that we know and we have been taught for generations and generations how to connect the past with the present and the future. The past does not stay in the books. The great knowledge that those Talmudic sages gave us are still on my bookshelves today. They are learned every day of our life. Those discussions, those arguments, those conclusions about what the Bible means to us are a living part of our life more than 2,000 years after they were spoken. So many people allow their families to be focused on the now and the future and forgetting the past. Where did you come from? What was your grandfather's occupation? What did you learn from your grandmother? Are there recipes that have been passed down generations on how to cook a certain meal in your family? That connection between old and new is so important in the continuation of community, in the continuation of knowledge, in the continuation of a family vision. There are definitely things that are different for our family today than they were when we were back in Germany or in Spain. But at the same time, there are certain things that we share with our great-great-great-grandparents. And I'll tell you one of them. I am blessed to be a Levite, a Levi, from both my father's side and my mother's side, which means there was no break between Moses down to my boys. We have been Levites for thousands and thousands of years. Every single prayer service, my boys and I wash the priest's hands before they give us a priestly blessing, the same priestly blessing that Aaron gave the Jewish people. There is continuation of tradition, of law, and of belief and faith. I'm going to challenge you. Pause this video. Document for yourself, what is it that today you want to pass on to your children? What is it today that you and your wife have decided are a non-negotiable? When your great-great-grandchildren speak about you as the leader, as the patriarch of your family, what are they going to speak about? What do you stand for? What were the messages, the knowledge, and the faith that you passed down to the generations far beyond you, because that's a leader. I want to talk to you about what other function the temple had in our lives that is so important and so real to us today. The temple is the place where God meets the earth. The temple is the place where we go up and God comes down. Just like on Mount Sinai, it says God came down to us and Moses went up to God. It is a meeting place between heaven and earth. Spirituality and physicality are both godly. They are not two separate beings. Let's go back to the creation of man. Man was created of the dust of the earth, physical. And as well, God then breathed into him the breath of life, spiritual, the soul, the neshama. They do not fight against each other, or they do sometimes fight against each other. But our goal in life, our purpose in life, is to find the perfect dance, the perfect tango, the perfect partnership between physical and spiritual. And I'll prove it to you. The greatest place that we can serve God is bringing the physical and making it spiritual, and vice versa. Otherwise, God would have said, create for me a temple, go sit there and hum, fast all day. Just think about me. Be as spiritual and disconnected from the world as possible. But God didn't say that. God said, create for me a tabernacle, and there you will do the most physical thing. You will take cattle, you will take birds, and you will sacrifice those physical beings to me. That is where heaven meets earth. That is where physical combines with spiritual to make us the perfect man as Adam was created. Let's move on straight down the line. As you know, I shoot straight down the line. There are many people who have grown up thinking that sexuality is something that is not spiritual. Sexuality is animalistic. Sexuality is against God. It is a ta'ava. It is a pull that is away from God. That's not true. The temple proves that to us. God begs us to bring him down into this world, into the most physical places of our life, and uplift those spaces in our life for him. So yes, I'm asking you to invite God into your bedroom. Invite God into the most physical place in your life and make sex a spiritual interaction. Make it a fully emotional interaction with your wife. Uplift her. Uplift yourself. And understand it is not something against God. It is a tool that God has put into this world, just like the tool that God gave us in the temple to sacrifice animals to him. It's a perfect man who can use his physical drive for a spiritual purpose, connecting, becoming one, as God tells Adam and Eve, becoming one with his wife.